Okay, in this example, we're going to evaluate two different approaches or policies designed to reduce illegal drug use. So the first one looks at the increase in the number of federal agents that are devoted to the war on drugs. So in this example, the increase in federal agents would reduce the supply of drugs. The demand for drugs, however, is inelastic because of addiction issues. So you would have a result where you would see an increase in total spending on drugs and in drug-related crime. In the second policy, we look at drug education. So what if more resources are devoted to educating students and the public on the dangers of drugs? So in that case, we would be focusing on the demand side. So an increase in drug education would reduce the demand rather for drugs. So your overall result would be a decrease in total spending on drugs and in drug-related crime. Next, we're going to look at the price elasticity of supply. How much the quantity supplied of a good responds to a change in the price of that good. The percentage change in quantity supplied divided by the percentage change in price. So what is the seller's sensitivity to price changes? So here we're calculating the price elasticity of supply. In this case, it's equal to 2. But just like we did on the demand side, we're going to use the midpoint method. So supply is unit elastic if the price elasticity of supply is 1. Supply is elastic if the price elasticity of supply is greater than 1. And supply is inelastic if the price elasticity of supply is less than 1. If supply is perfectly inelastic, the price elasticity of supply would equal 0 and the supply curve would be vertical. If the supply curve is perfectly elastic, the price elasticity of supply would be infinite and the supply curve would be horizontal. So the flatter the supply curve, the greater the price elasticity of supply. So here we see supply is perfectly inelastic. In this example, we have relatively inelastic supply. The price elasticity would be less than 1 in this case. If we have unit elastic, the elasticity would be equal to 1. And if we have elastic supply, the supply curve is going to be relatively flat, and the price elasticity is going to be greater than 1. If supply is perfectly elastic, the supply curve is going to be horizontal. The elasticity would be calculated as anything over 0, so it would be infinite. And the seller's price sensitivity would be very extreme in this case. Greater price elasticity of supply means the more easily sellers can change the quantity they produce. If you consider supply of beachfront property, it's harder to vary and thus less elastic than the supply of new cars. Price elasticity of supply is greater in the long run than in the short run. In the long run, firms can build new factories or new firms may be able to enter the market for that good or service. Okay, consider this active learning. Elasticity and changes in equilibrium, where the supply of beachfront property is inelastic and the supply of new cars is elastic. Suppose that the population growth causes demand for both goods to double. For which product will the price change the most? And for which product will quantity change the most?